David, come join us in the snow.
Forest horror stories reported during harsh winter nights. The first sound was faint, too faint to call a scream, too deliberate to be the wind. Aamir paused at the edge of the snow-covered forest, breath fogging the cold air. The road behind him had disappeared under a fresh layer of powder, leaving nothing but a blank canvas of white stretching toward the mountains. A branch cracked somewhere deeper in the trees. Not the dry snap of winter wood, but a shiver of intention, as if something had shifted just to be noticed. His heart thumped, loud enough that he swore the forest had heard it. A low whisper rose from the shadows between the trunks. He froze. Not words exactly, but a cadence, a tone, familiar yet impossible. Names he hadn't spoken in years floated through the air, carried in a voice that was both distant and inside his skull. Aamir swallowed. He told himself it was the wind, the snow, exhaustion, or grief playing tricks. He'd lost his brother 5 years ago, and maybe the forest knew that, feeding on memory. Something moved at the corner of his vision. Too tall, too thin, not human. He turned, nothing. Just snow falling, silently, blanketing the world. But the feeling remained. He was being watched, studied, waited for. He took a step forward, boots crunching in the snow. Another whisper, closer now, scraping along the trees. It wasn't a threat yet, only a promise. You are not alone. And you are already noticed. Aamir's phone buzzed in his pocket. No signal. The screen glowed with a single message typed by an unknown number. "We hear you." And from somewhere deep in the forest, a branch snapped again, this time directly behind him. He didn't dare turn. The forest had begun to notice. Forest horror stories reported during harsh winter nights. The forest had gone quiet in a way that felt deliberate. Not the peaceful kind. Not the soft hush of snow settling on branches. This was a listening silence, as if every tree, every frozen root beneath the ground, had leaned inward to hear something breathe. Aamir stood at the edge of the tree lane, breath fogging the air, boots half buried in snow that had fallen non-stop for 3 nights. The road behind him was gone now, swallowed by white. Even the tire tracks from his Jeep had vanished, erased as if he had never arrived. He checked his phone again. No signal. No time. No sense of direction that felt trustworthy anymore. He told himself this was normal. Winter did this. Snow blurred distances, warped sound, made the world feel smaller and larger at the same time. He had read the reports. People losing their bearings, claiming they heard voices, shapes moving where nothing should be. Stress. Hypothermia. Fear. That's what he was here to document. Aamir was a journalist. Or at least he still called himself one. When the editor forwarded him the email, "Forest horror stories reported during harsh winter nights," it had felt like a joke. Internet hysteria. Villagers exaggerating. Old superstitions recycled every winter when the roads closed and the nights stretched too long. But something about the reports had been consistent. Different witnesses. Different years. Same details. Knocking sounds deep in the woods. Voices calling names they shouldn't know. People vanishing for hours, returning wrong. He adjusted the strap of his bag and stepped forward. The forest accepted him without resistance. Trees rose on either side, tall and skeletal, their branches tangled like frozen veins against the sky. Snow clung to them unevenly, as if something had brushed past recently. Aamir slowed, scanning the ground. Footprints. Not animal. Not human. Too long. Too shallow. Like something had been dragged rather than walked. His chest tightened. He forced himself to keep moving. The village wasn't far. At least that's what the map said. A small settlement tucked between the forest and the mountains, nearly abandoned during winter. Only a handful of families stayed behind each year. Those too old, too stubborn, or too poor to leave. The kind of people who told stories no one believed. A gust of wind cut through the trees, carrying a sound with it. Aamir stopped. It wasn't the wind. It was whispering. Low. Layered. Not one voice, but many, overlapping just enough that no words could be understood. The sound crawled along his spine, making his scalp prickle beneath his cap. "Hello," he called out, hating how small his voice sounded. The whispering stopped. Silence slammed down so hard it made his ears ring. Aamir laughed once, sharp and nervous. "Great," he muttered, already losing it. He walked faster. When the village finally emerged from the trees, it looked wrong, not abandoned but paused. Houses stood with doors shut tight, windows dark. Snow piled against walls like it had been thrown there intentionally. Smoke curled from no chimneys. Someone had been here recently. He could feel it. A single light flickered on in a house near the center. Aamir hesitated, then approached, boots crunching loudly in the snow. Each step felt intrusive, like he was trespassing on something that hadn't invited him. He knocked. No answer. He knocked again, harder. The door creaked open just enough for a face to appear. An old man, skin pale and tight, eyes rimmed red as if he hadn't slept in days. His gaze locked onto Aamir's face, then dropped to his boots. His hands. His shadow. The man's expression changed. Fear. Not of a stranger, but of something attached to him. "You shouldn't be here," the old man said. Aamir opened his mouth to explain, to introduce himself, but the man spoke again, faster this time. "It follows the sound of footsteps in winter," he whispered. "Especially new ones." "What does?" Aamir asked. The old man's grip tightened on the door. "The forest," he said. Then, quieter, "or what wakes up inside it." Aamir swallowed. "I'm just here to ask about the stories." The old man laughed, a broken, humorless sound. "Stories?" he echoed. "These aren't stories. Stories end." He leaned closer, breath sour and shaking. "This doesn't." The door slammed shut. Aamir stood there, heart pounding, staring at his own reflection in the dark wood. His breath came too fast now. The cold felt sharper, more invasive. Behind him. Crunch. Not snow falling. Not wind. Footsteps. Slow. Careful. Close enough that he could feel the vibration through the ground. Aamir didn't turn around. He already knew one thing with terrifying certainty. Whatever had followed him out of the forest had learned the sound of his steps. And it was still listening. Forest horror stories reported during harsh winter nights. Aamir did not turn around. The footsteps stopped the moment he did. That was the first rule he learned without anyone explaining it. Movement invited attention. He stood frozen outside the old man's house, breath shallow, ears straining. Snow creaked softly beneath his boots as his weight shifted without permission. The sound echoed too loudly in the silence, as if the forest itself had leaned closer. Nothing followed. After a long moment, he forced himself to move, slowly, deliberately, toward the neighboring house. He did not look back. He did not run. Something inside him knew that running would turn this into a game. The door of the second house was unlocked. Inside, the air was stale and cold, carrying the faint smell of damp wood and old smoke. Aamir shut the door behind him and leaned against it, pressing his forehead to the rough surface. His heart hammered, each beat loud enough to feel like a signal flare. He waited. No scratching. No knocking. No whispering. Just the sound of his own breathing and something else beneath it. A low, almost inaudible hum, like a vibration in the walls. He pushed himself upright and scanned the room. It was a single space. A table, 2 chairs, a cold fireplace, shelves lined with jars filled with things he didn't recognize. Roots. Bark. Ash. Protection charms, maybe. Or apologies. A notebook lay open on the table. Aamir hesitated before touching it. The pages were brittle, the handwriting uneven but careful, written by someone who feared forgetting more than they feared remembering. December 3rd snow came early. The forest went quiet. That's how it always starts. He flipped the page. December 6th heard knocking again. 3 times. Always 3. No doors opened. Aamir's stomach tightened. Another page. December 9th, it knows the names now. He stopped reading when he realized the notebook wasn't meant for him. It was meant as a warning. A sound came from outside, a soft crunch, slow and measured. Footsteps circling the house. Aamir moved away from the door, every nerve screaming. He killed the light on his phone and stood in darkness, eyes adjusting just enough to see the pale blur of the window. A shadow passed across it. Too tall, too thin. Wrong. The shadow paused. Aamir clamped a hand over his mouth as a voice drifted through the wall. Not loud, not threatening, familiar. Aamir. His blood turned to ice. The voice belonged to his younger brother, dead for 5 years. "It's cold out here," the voice said softly. "You said you'd come back." Aamir squeezed his eyes shut, teeth chattering despite himself. This was a trick. Grief. Hallucination. Stress layered over exhaustion. He did not answer. The voice sighed. Footsteps retreated. Only then did he collapse into the chair, shaking. Morning did not bring relief. The sky remained a dull, bruised gray, and the forest stood motionless, as if waiting for something to finish. Aamir stepped outside cautiously. No footprints surrounded the house, except his own, leading in and out like evidence he wished he could erase. The village began to stir as the light grew. Doors opened a crack. Faces appeared briefly, then vanished. People watched him without curiosity. Only calculation. Like they were measuring how long he would last. He approached a woman carrying firewood. She flinched when he spoke. "Excuse me." "Don't," she said quickly, not looking at him. "Don't talk too loud." "Why?" She hesitated, then whispered. "Sound carries farther in winter." "Who told you that?" Aamir asked. Her eyes flicked to the forest. "Everyone who stayed long enough." She walked away. Aamir spent the day gathering fragments. Not interviews, confessions. Each villager spoke as if the forest might overhear them through his ears. An old caretaker told him about the Winter Pact. How, decades ago, the village had agreed to leave the forest undisturbed during the cold months. No hunting. No logging. No paths cleared. "We broke it," the caretaker said, staring into his tea. "Just once. That's all it took." "What happened?" Aamir asked. The caretaker's voice dropped. "It learned us." Another man described his son vanishing for a night, returning barefoot and silent. He never slept again. He just stood by the window listening. Aamir wrote everything down, hands numb, mind racing. Patterns emerged. The phenomenon only appeared during heavy snowfall. It mimicked voices, but never faces. It followed newcomers first. That last detail sat in his chest like a weight. That night, the whispering returned. This time it came from inside the house. Aamir sat up in bed, heart pounding. The room was dark, moonlight reflecting faintly off the snow outside. The whispering wasn't in any language he knew, but beneath it, he heard words trying to form. His name. His brother's name. Things he had never told anyone. He backed toward the wall, breath shallow. "Stop," he whispered. The whispering paused. Then came a knock. 3 times. From the inside of the wall. Aamir screamed and stumbled back as the sound echoed through the room. The knocking moved, traveling along the wall, following him, mapping his position with sound. He understood then. It wasn't hunting bodies. It was hunting attention. The moment he reacted, the whispering sharpened. The air grew heavier, pressing against his ears, his thoughts. Shadows bent in the corners of the room, stretching unnaturally. "Don't answer it," a voice hissed from the doorway. Aamir spun around. The old man from the first house stood there, eyes wide, face pale. He grabbed Aamir's arm with surprising strength. "It wants you to listen," he whispered. "That's how it comes closer." "What is it?" Aamir demanded, shaking. The old man swallowed. "We don't name it. Names make things real." Another knock sounded, this time from the ceiling. The old man dragged Aamir toward the back of the house. "You brought it with you," he said, not accusing, resigned. "Every outsider does." "I didn't mean to." "Meaning doesn't matter to the forest," the old man said. "Only sound." They hid in silence until dawn. By the third night, Aamir no longer trusted his own thoughts. He caught himself listening for patterns in the wind, flinching at the sound of his pen scratching paper. Sleep came in fragments, filled with dreams where the forest wore human voices like borrowed skin. The villagers avoided him now. One morning, he found footprints outside his door. His footprints, perfectly replicated, leading into the forest, and stopping abruptly, as if something had learned enough. Aamir stood staring at them, a single thought looping endlessly in his mind. It didn't need to follow him anymore. It already knew how he sounded when he was afraid. Somewhere deep in the forest, something shifted, slowly, deliberately, preparing to answer him back. Forest horror stories reported during harsh winter nights. By the fourth night, Aamir no longer pretended to understand the forest. He had learned it was patient, deliberate, and cruel in ways that left no trace until it wanted you to notice. He left the village house before dawn, boots sinking into the thick snow, every step a signal to something waiting. The old man had warned him, over trembling hands and eyes wide with terror. If it wants you, it will come for you. Running only teaches it your rhythm. Aamir tried anyway. He moved quickly, zigzagging between trees, ignoring the soft whispering that had resumed behind him like a second heartbeat. At first, it was quiet. Soft syllables muttered in voices familiar yet impossibly wrong. Then it grew, layering, overlapping, calling names he had never spoken aloud. Aamir. Don't leave. It's cold. The forest seemed to breathe around him. Shadows stretched and twisted like broken bones, wrapping the trunks in unnatural angles. He froze as a sound, soft but sharp, snapped just behind him. He turned. Nothing. Only snow falling off branches. Yet he felt eyes inside the whiteness. Watching. Waiting. He stumbled into a clearing. Moonlight reflected off the ice like a silver sheet. And there it was, the tree. Not just a tree, a mass of branches tangled like veins, roots coiling above the frozen earth. Shapes moved within the bark. Faces. Hundreds of faces, pale and silent, mouths opening and closing like drowned fish. The whispering stopped. The silence was worse. Aamir's phone buzzed. A message. Not from a human number. Just 3 words. We see you. He dropped the phone. It shattered on the ice. From the shadows a figure emerged. At first, he thought it was the old man, but the eyes were wrong. Empty. Black holes that absorbed the weak moonlight. Its mouth twisted unnaturally. When it moved, the sound was wrong, like scraping metal over glass, layered with 1,000 distorted voices speaking at once. Aamir ran, but the clearing had grown impossibly large. Every direction he turned, the forest shifted. Trees rearranging subtly, paths that didn't exist before opening like corridors. He screamed, realizing the snow beneath him wasn't snow anymore. It was flesh, soft and yielding, moving with every panicked step. Aamir. The voice of his brother again. But this time closer. Right behind him. He turned. No brother. Only a shadow in human shape, stretching impossibly tall, looming over him. The whispering came from every direction now, overlapping, multiplying. Villagers, animals, people who had disappeared, things he didn't recognize. Each one calling, beckoning, accusing. Aamir tried to call for help. His voice failed. He couldn't scream. His own throat had been taken as part of the forest's appetite. The figure moved closer. Aamir's mind reeled. Every memory, every thought of safety, was being mirrored and twisted. His room in the village house, his brother's funeral, his own reflection in the Jeep mirror. All became tangible hallucinations he couldn't escape. A hand, long, skeletal, impossibly cold, touched his shoulder. He spun, saw hundreds of hands reaching from the snow, from the trees, from the shadows themselves. They were not alive. Not dead. Not human. But they remembered him. They remembered fear. He fell to his knees, shaking uncontrollably. The air pressed in. 1,000 whispers screaming one truth. You belong to the forest now. He crawled. Begged. Tried to run again. The figure followed, silent. The voices layered higher, until reality itself seemed to crack like ice underfoot. Aamir. This time, the whisper was from inside his own head. Every thought, every panic, every heartbeat answered it. He understood fully and irrevocably. The forest didn't chase. It learned. And now he was part of its rhythm. The ground beneath him split. Not like ice cracking, but like earth opening its mouth. The hands reached, dragging, pulling, merging with the snow, with the trees with him. He screamed, and the scream was absorbed. Time no longer existed. Direction no longer existed. He could feel himself dissolving into everything. The forest, the snow, the whispers. His name, his memories, his body. They were all being rewritten into the forest story. A last thought pierced the chaos, before everything flattened into cold white nothingness. He had thought the stories were warnings. They were invitations. And then silence. No snow. No whispers. No footprints. Only the trees, still and silent, as if nothing had happened. Except the air was colder now. And somewhere, deep inside the forest, a new rhythm began. One that waited patiently for the next footsteps. Forest horror stories reported during harsh winter nights. The village woke to a quiet the likes of which it had never known. Snow fell in sheets, soft and unbroken, muffling sound until even the wind seemed cautious. Houses stood intact, doors closed, chimneys silent. Yet there was an emptiness, an absence that made the few remaining villagers tread lightly, voices lowered to whispers, eyes darting to the trees as if they themselves feared what had been allowed to pass. No one saw Aamir leave the forest, or return, or vanish. There were no footprints, no trails, no signs that he had ever been there beyond the open doors he had passed and the notebook he had left behind. Pages splayed as though blown by an invisible hand. Inside that notebook, the final entry ended abruptly. It knows the sound of fear. It waits. Nothing more. The old man from the first house did not speak for days. He stared into the snow, muttering fragments of warnings, fragments of names, fragments of dreams that had become nightmares. The villagers said he looked smaller each day, as though part of him had been left behind in the forest. The forest itself appeared unchanged. To outsiders, it was a quiet winter landscape, pristine and beautiful. Yet the snow carried a different weight here. Thicker, heavier, almost deliberate in how it pressed against branches and walls. Footsteps, if made, disappeared as if the snow refused to record them. Whispers still rose in the nights, faint enough that the untrained ear dismissed them, but those who listened closely, those who had stayed too long, knew better. The forest had learned. And it remembered. Years later, travelers occasionally stumbled near its edge, hearing noises they could not explain. Whispers in voices they thought they recognized. Shadows bending too long across the snow. And some, rare few, reported seeing someone walking alone, disappearing into the white, leaving nothing behind. The villagers understood without speaking. The forest claimed what it wanted. Not by force, not by rage, but by inevitability. It didn't need to chase. It waited. And it was patient. The notebook remained on the table in the abandoned house. Pages yellowed, brittle, unreadable to anyone but those who understood the rhythm of fear. A single line could be deciphered if you leaned close enough. Every step you take echoes. Every name you call returns. Do not walk. Do not speak. It is listening. Even now, long after Aamir's disappearance, the snow drifts remain heavier in the forest's heart. The shadows linger longer than they should. And if someone listens closely, in the absolute quiet between snowflakes and branches, they might hear it, the faintest echo of footsteps that are not their own. And always, always, a whisper that seems to come from inside your own mind. We know your name. The silence that follows is absolute. But it is never safe. The forest waits. It is patient. It is inevitable. And the next footsteps, unaware, careless, will teach it again.